Hello, my name is Lisa Bush, and today we're going to take a look at our integrated fixed asset module. Fixed assets is one of the financial components, and it's tightly integrated with the general ledger. So when you do your entries for depreciation, we're going to update the general ledger. It's also integrated with accounts payable, so as you purchase things that are an asset, you'll have the ability to send that information to the asset module. So we'll take a look at all of that. So first of all, the fixed asset module is one of our modules here, and it's got the same look and feel as all of our other financial applications. So things you do on a daily basis, we've got those under the daily tab. We have a separate tab for periodic. This is probably where you're going to run your depreciation, write down or dispose of your assets. We also have an option that you can import assets from Excel. And so we have a template so that you can take an Excel file and import that information. So if you're starting to use the asset module, a little later, you've got this in Excel, but you don't want to have to key all that into fixed assets, we can import those. There are reports, once again, unlimited history. This product also will work with the report designer, so where you can create your own reports if you decide to add the report designer for financials. And then there are several inquiries, and we'll take a look at these as well. And then last but not least is tables. This is a pretty straightforward application to set up. There's not a lot of tables. As we go in and take a look at it, I'll show you all the different items and tables that you can easily set up in the system. So let's go ahead and go to daily, and let's take a look at the information that we track on your fixed assets. First of all, just like all of our other searches, if you know a little bit of information, you can search. So you can look up your assets if you know the ID, if you know the status, the department, the location, the make and model, or any combination, you can do those partial searches. So I'm going to go ahead and do a search, and I will bring up this first fixed assets. Okay, let's take a look at the screen. The toolbar, everything, navigation's identical. If you do have a question, you can also always hit the telephone within the product to electronically log your support call. A couple of key things I want to point out. One is, obviously, you can track as many assets as you want. We also have the ability to track improvements to your asset. So let's say you have a fire truck and you add, new tires or, new equipment, and you want to track those. You do have the ability to have those improvements to that existing asset. Now, these are some of the tables I mentioned earlier. Class, you can have different class of assets. This is your code, your tables. We do have some reports that can pull out this information. We're going to also, keep track if this is a new or used asset. You can also have subclasses that roll up to the class. Once again, this is a table. You can have as many of these as you want. If you have departments set up in your chart of accounts, we're going to bring that information over so you don't have to rekey that in. And then we're going to also track different locations. You can do searches and report on your assets by location. So this is totally up to you on how you want to track the locations of those different assets. And then we also can keep track of 3 user definable fields. And these are fields that you define. Once again, if that information's on that Excel file, we can map it so that we put that information there. Now, on the first tab, this is going to track information typically coming over from accounting, the date you purchased it. So if you turn on that interface, we're going to populate that date. The method, the vendor, if there's a purchase order, that's going to all come over from accounting, and then the price you paid for it. So if you do interface with accounts payable, you can run a pending report and see all those assets, because obviously there's more information on your assets and you want to key in an AP, but we will pick up that other information. We do track the whole life cycle from when you purchase to when and how you dispose of it. There's a table you can set up on different methods. So if you want to be able to keep track of donations or what things you sold, or stolen or whatever, you can track that, the date, the value, and then that write down amount. Now, under the depreciation tab, you know, we can start tracking those assets. You know, once you get those into the system, you've probably already got some that are partially depreciated. We can pick it up from that point in time and go forward. And most of our customers use straight line. However, we also do have sum of years digit and double declining balance. So, but I will say most of our customers just use straight line for depreciation, and this is where it tracks that information. Under the accounting tab, this is where you're going to define those GL accounts so that when we do post this to the general ledger, those are mapped over to the GL. And just like all the other products that feed into the GL, you can look at just the entries that are coming over from fixed assets. That's one of those options, like payroll and utilities and courts, etc. Now, what's really nice is, because we know there's a lot of information that you need to track that we didn't think about, you've got literally 15 site-defined fields that you can define and track on your different fixed assets. You do have unlimited notes. Now, just like all of our other products, you can easily attach documents. So it's just like attaching a document in an email. So if you can attach, you know, PDFs, pictures, videos, any type of file that you can attach in an email, you can attach to your fixed asset database. And then the last tab is where we're going to track transactions. So if you do write down or dispose of the asset, we're going to pick that transaction up so you'll be able to see that here. But once again, it's a simple little tab. It gives you a great place to track all of that pertinent information on your assets so that you've got this available to you where, you know, where you're tracking those valuations. Now, under periodic, this is where, you know, you're going to calculate your depreciation. And when you do run this option, you can do it by class, through a date, for a year. And so, you know, like I said, most people do this quarterly or monthly. We do have some that do it once a year. Now, this is where you post that depreciation. If you do need to write down or dispose of an asset, we have a transaction where you're going to do that. So you'll know what you're doing, the dollar amount, and when we do post it to the general ledger, we're going to keep track of the proceeds or the gain or loss. So all of that's going to flow so that you could easily track that information. So, and then that will also show up on that tab for transactions. Now, under reports, we have a couple here. One is a register, and you can pull this several different ways. I can do it by the department. I could do it by a specific asset account number, the fixed asset number, or a class. I can do it for, you know, maybe I want to get a listing of everything I acquired this fiscal year or everything I disposed of this fiscal year, but it could be any date range. So once again, unlimited history. Just like all of our reports, you can print it to the screen, but this is going to give you a register of all those different transactions with your fixed assets, which is the main thing. You know, what did you purchase? What did you get rid of? So that we can easily track that information. And as I mentioned before, the report designer works under the financial piece with fixed assets. So you can literally drag and drop those fields to create any type of report. Now, this pending report, this is going to pick up all of those assets that you purchased through accounts payable so that you can then gather up the remaining information and key it in. So we're going to key in for you purchase information, you know, the date, the dollar amount, the vendor, the PO, but then there's other things that you're going to need to tell it, like the class, the location, things like that. But that report will let you know what came over from financials. Now, under tables, this is where, I'm sorry, we'll do inquiries. Several different inquiries. This particular one, you know, you can search and, you know, if I want to get everything at a certain location or a certain department, I can very easily, you know, pull in, you know, just those assets. So here I've got 3 under building. I can pick any one of these and it takes you to that inquiry screen. So it's look only, you can't make changes, but you would be able to see all the activity, all the attachments for those different assets. Now, other ones I can do it by class. And once again, I can get, a quick listing. And if I want to narrow that list, and then I can drill down to any one of those and then very quickly see the detail. And like I said, the same thing, I've got it by location and then by department. So similar search, but different ways at getting at the data. And then last but not least is tables. This is where you're going to define your site defined fields. You're going to decide what locations. You can always add more. You can also keep track of, your classes, your subclasses. So typically, once you get your table set up, you're not going to have to spend any time there. But before I leave, I just want to show you once again, it is tightly integrated with the general ledger. So if I wanted to see entries that came over from fixed assets, I could see just those entries for a period or a date range. And as I mentioned on accounts payable, that's one of your decisions in the setup is, do you want it to integrate with fixed assets so that it will give you a notification that this is a fixed asset. Do you want to send it? And then we'll gather that information up so that you don't have to rekey it in. But that's totally up to you on how you want that to interface. So once again, this is just an overview of the fixed assets. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, but it's a fairly straightforward, easy application to add, and we'll track all your assets for you. So thank you for your time today.